We have yet another indicator. This is a major confirmation, another signal about how the future of the world economy is going to look. One word, it's multipolar. And I know many people have heard about this headline already, but I think I have some extra information on this. I did some digging. During an economic conference last week, we had the leadership of Brazil and Argentina. They made a statement of their intention to create their own currency. And they said very directly that their new currency, the objective is to reduce their dependence on the dollar. They did not mince words. They said very directly. They're calling this potential new currency the SUR, or the MercoSur, which would be named after an existing alliance in the region. And because this alliance already exists, the MercoSur, there's speculation that this could be a currency for the entirety of South America. They're calling it the euro of South America, potentially, speculating. But here's something really interesting. This is so interesting to me. Brazil shares a border with 10 countries. And so you have Brazil. They're economically healthy. They are a member of the BRICS. And they are a creditor on the world stage discussing rolling out their own currency. So I don't think this could be a coincidence at all. You had just days before Russia and Iran come out and announce that they're creating their own currency. And in this case, they give us more details. It's going to be a gold-backed stablecoin. They're calling it the token for Persia. So to me, that doesn't sound like a coincidence at all. It was nearly at the exact same time that they made these announcements. And this would not be the first time that South Americans threatened to create their own currency. There was examples in the 80s or the 90s. They had projects named the Gaucho and the Peso Real. And there was one instance where even it was Venezuela leading the charge to create their own South American currency. And a little bit off track here, but I think this is important. Right now, Venezuela is blacklisted from the MercoSur alliance. And I had to ask myself, what do you think about this? With all the politics around the world, but especially in South America, moving left, what are the odds that Venezuela could rejoin that region and rejoin the MercoSur? I'm not really sure of Venezuela's relationship with China and Russia. What is that really like? But this seems really significant. This seems really significant to me. This was Lula da Silva's, the new president of Brazil. This was his very first trip outside of the country to go and visit their neighbors. And so a freshly inaugurated president of Brazil, and there's still a lot of controversy over that election, his first order of business was to hop over to Argentina and announce a new currency with them. So could it be to score political points, or is he trying to make a statement? I don't know, but to me, that means something. And so I saw there's already a lot of economists and news pundits saying that this idea is bizarre, a lot of just kind of dismissing it, with nearly all of them saying that their economies are not strong enough to be able to launch their own currency. And I did a little digging on this too. And it turns out, particularly in Argentina, while they've had a lot of problems, Argentina's had 10 currency defaults in 100 years. They had a currency default in 2001, a currency default in 2014, and even very recently, currency default in 2020. And as it stands right now, Argentina's inflation is at about 100% year over year. And they would already be defaulting again if not for they're getting some help from the IMF. But again, I have another interesting aside right here. And you silver stackers should find this interesting. Brazil and Argentina have a very long history together, dating back to the 15th century. And one of the main drivers of colonization in all of South America were it was the Spanish and the Portuguese looking for precious metals, especially silver. And so they settled in this area. They got named the Rio de Plata, the River of Silver, and it's one of the largest basins in the world. So they settled in this area, and those countries later became Uruguay and Paraguay and Argentina and Brazil. But because they have this whole history together, there's a long establishment of trade and relationships, and there's even been plenty of fighting amongst the two nations. But we got to look at this like it's a natural alliance that they've made here. And so that's going to be a strong relationships between the two nations. But furthermore, I did a little more digging, and it turns out that Argentina is not as economically weak as they look with all these currency defaults. They're very strong in manufacturing. They're the region's largest exporter of grains and grain processed products. They have industries in machinery. They're making car parts. They have a pharmaceutical industry, textiles, and I see that they're also making electronics. They are doing some of the manufacturing that we would normally expect to only be done in China. But a lot of the manufacturing is moving from China to Mexico, but also there's opportunities in South America. And so once again, I would not be so dismissive. Argentina is South America's second largest economy right now. But here's the last point I want to make on this. This is important. Even if Argentina and Brazil are not in the best possible place to make this move right now, they might not have a choice. If economic conditions around the world continue to worsen, well, that could possibly force a lot of regions to adapt their own currency, whether it's a cyber pandemic or a global liquidity freeze or even some sort of dollar meltdown. These regional moves that are being discussed, it might be out of necessity. Yeah, and so let's just remember the B in BRICS is for Brazil. And so whatever you see these other BRICS nations doing, while Brazil is just going to be a microcosm, it really looks like Brazil is all in on the BRICS. And so if you see Russia and Iran doing it, you know that they're going to have the same ideas. It seems like precious metals on the blockchain is just a slam dunk. And by the time this is all over, I believe it's gonna look so obvious. We'll have wondered why anyone ever doubted it. Please give me a like and a follow if you enjoyed this content.